So how do you think this whole visual thinking and visual communication is applied to the work environment, and what's the upside or the downside to whether it's, you know, interfacing or presentations or, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a downside.
Okay.
So that's I think
I have to throw that in.
that for one is a good sign. You know what? There may be downsides. I think if it's not done well, or if it maybe not done properly, and not that there's an official way to do it, but if it's not done well, if you use pictures for your PowerPoint to send a message, and the pictures don't connect with what you're trying to convey, then that's a problem. That said, in terms of helping you understand things, helping you remember things, I think it's incredibly impactful business world. Things are very complex. Processes are complex. Every day there's another technology or component of technology that we have to understand, figure out, used or decide not to use. And how do we know whether or not it works for us? How do we make sense of all this complex stuff? So we do two things. We either relate it to something we already know. So, oh, that's the new Facebook. Or that's kind of like Facebook combined with LinkedIn.
Okay.
Right? And we kind of make comparisons, and they may or may not be right. Or we could start to kind of draw them and map them out and see things visually so that they make more sense. So I think it helps in terms of communication. It definitely helps in terms of learning. You know, studies have shown that the retention for information is much stronger if you see a visual. So if you think about it throughout your schooling, there's some classes where the professor or your teacher just talked and talked and talked, and there are other classes where they showed a model, right? And maybe that, if you're lucky, that model sticks in your head. As a coach, right, you've probably learned about Maslow, right? And Maslow's hierarchy. As soon as you talk about that, in my head, and probably in yours as well, you see a triangle. That's a hierarchy that we know we have to build from one level to the next. It's a really simple form of formatting information in a way that we look at it and we immediately get it. So you know that I can't be self-actualized until I have security and all the other things
the
in
first
between.
three things that you've done. Right.
So I think in terms of communication, in terms of problem solving, and also creativity and innovation. You know, companies have to be really innovative because the world is moving fast and technology is moving fast, and drawing, playing, trying things helps, I think helps with creativity and innovation.
So drawing, doodling, you know, putting things down, do organizations or where you work, would they look at that as somebody's immature? Or, I mean, you know, or do they take it seriously?
I think part of the danger of talking about this, or potential danger, is that people may not see it as being serious. People see drawings and sketchings, and they don't look like artwork all the time, right? They don't look like Picasso.
Right.
Sometimes they don't even look like, you know, we've become very media savvy, right? So we see these beautiful images, and we've been sold on products based on imagery and all these things, and then we come in and we draw a stick figure. And we say, look at this is my idea, here's a stick figure. But I think if the idea is powerful enough, and if we convey it in the proper way, that people will get it. I think there's more and more of a movement for people to start using these things and start understanding these things, because visuals are powerful tools. And so if we can use them properly, even if it's simple, and stick figures I think are fine, but if we can draw it out, it helps either understand it or helps understand why there's a disconnect between the way I see something and the way you might see something. And then we could talk about it.
It feels like it's a innovator / creator's paradise, you know, because who doesn't sit at their desk and I doodle? I mean, I do boxes, I do flowers, you know, I think a lot of people doodle.
Sure.
So it's taking doodling to the whole nother level.
It's Doodle 5.0, but it does. It's taking
Doodle on
doodling.
steroids.
Exactly. But what's interesting is that, so again, doodling comes from cave drawings, right? We drew on caves to explain things, and we carve things into rocks, we draw things in the dirt, right? And we help people understand what we're saying. And that's kind of, those cave drawings have evolved. And once spoken language came about, it was kind of looked at as less important and less, I don't know if we were talking about professionalism at that point, but now could be viewed as less professional. But what we're finding, what we're hearing is that studies are being done that show that doodling helps people process information more effectively and helps them remember things. And so if we know it'll help us understand things better, and we know it'll help us process information and remember the information, why would we not take advantage of that tool? And I actually have a friend and colleague who's writing a book called The Doodle Revolution. And it's all about how using doodles helps people understand and maintain information. And she's doing work for companies like Dell and Disney and Zappos, and helping them use visuals to make sense of things and to explore their corporate culture and all these different things. So it could seem like a game and could seem like it's not so serious. But the impact, what we're seeing is that there's an impact in that people have success by doing this. So why not use those tools that are powerful?
So I wonder, if you think about the whole financial world and Goldman Sachs and certainly J.P. Morgan, how would they think of this type of visual thinking and communication? I mean, I just thought of that. The more serious parts. Certainly Zappos and some of the other ones, Dell, or the more, even Apple. But when you get to the more serious companies like the financial world or some of the offshoots and others, how would they feel or look upon this whole visual thinking concept?
That's a good question. Knowing that it's effective, for me, knowing that it's effective, if we could use some techniques for it without calling it visual thinking, without calling it doodling.
Okay.
Sometimes it's how, right? You know this, right? It's how you frame the message, not necessarily what you do. But having worked with some of those companies, having worked with a lot of financial services companies, if we're creating a visual model that shows leaders how they could be more effective in communicating with their people, or more effective in understanding their own personal communication style, their leadership style, we're not focused on, hey, we're all visual thinking now. We're saying, all right, we're looking at a tool. It happens to be a visual tool, but we're looking at a visual tool that could help you understand yourself better, can help you be a better leader, can help you understand who your people are and how they might interpret things or perceive things, or how they might prefer communication to come to them and how they might prefer to work. And so we're using those tools. We're not necessarily calling visual thinking. And so, I think a lot of that is about framing it. It's not about play. It's about developing people so they're more effective at what they do.
So it sounds like when you take visual communication, thinking and visual communication, and you take it out into the different arenas, whether it's financial, whether it's creative, or whichever it is, you're couching it and framing it in a way that suits each of these different arenas, so people understand it.
Sure. Yeah, so I don't know that I would walk into a Goldman Sachs or American Express and go, hey, today we're going to sketch. Today we're going to spend all day sketching and doodling. You'd probably be thrown out.
Right.
So so I think a lot of it is how we position it. All right. So these are tools that we could use, and sometimes you can within a meeting, within a conversation, you can walk up to a flip chart. You can walk up to a whiteboard and say and start drawing things out and saying, all right, I think this is what you're talking about. We're developing a new process for buying something, or we're developing a new process for how we carry out an objective, right? And you're explaining it to me, and this is what I'm seeing, and I draw it out, and someone says, kind of like that, but this part isn't exactly right. So now we're starting to have a discussion, a very practical, real-world discussion about what's the process. We're not even focused on the drawing, right? We're thinking about what's the outcome, what's the process, and are we being more effective, are we being more efficient? And we're just using the drawing component as a tool to have a discussion around it and to close that communication gap so everyone more clearly understands what the concept is and how, and what winds up happening is more people contribute and more people add to it, and hopefully the outcome is even more powerful than what you would have had in the first place. But I think seeing it, you know, we have tons of phrases about visuals and seeing. Seeing is believing, right?
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Picture's worth 1,000 words. You know, what's our company's vision, right? Or he's a real visionary. So we have all these words about visuals and about thinking visually and about you. And so clearly visuals and visual thinking is an important part of the way we operate. I don't know that we've called it that up to this point. And now more and more people are discussing it and talking about it and writing about it. And it's becoming more and more mainstream and more and more acceptable.
It's very interesting, and it's good to hear, actually, that I think it's taking, as we talked about at dinner, taking words like we text people, right? We email, we try to condense what we want to say. I mean, certainly if you send a text out or an email, you're shortening what you want to say. So is this just another offshoot of, I mean, if you can paint a picture, then you can get the message across. So again, kind of rerouting, if you will, some verbiage.
We're looking to do things more effectively, and we're looking to do things quicker.
Okay.
Right? Because we need to get something done quicker. We need to get it out to market quicker. We need to understand it quicker. We need to get it over to the other department quicker. And if drawing and seeing can help expedite that process, you know, we're in a much better position. And there are tons of ways to do it, right? So we talked about PowerPoint, more effective PowerPoint. We've all sat through, presentations that were painful. And
more than one.
More than one, right? So we see bullet points, and you had mentioned we see people reading off their slides and things like that. Again, if different parts of the brain are processing the reading and the listening, and the presenter is fighting a battle with the slide that's behind them, we're not going to get the idea, and we're not going to understand things quickly and act quickly. So part of the visual thing is so that things make more sense, and so that we can put process into place, or we can understand things better, and hopefully that speeds up the process. And we have shortcuts like texting and email. Unfortunately, sometimes we use shortcuts too much, and then the message doesn't get across.
Right, that's true.
So it's all about choosing the right approach for the right situation, and using the right channel, and actually also developing skills. And that's part of what Todd and I do, is helping people develop skills so that they've got another tool to use as a communication device.
So I'd like to at least give you some time to give folks your website if they want to go and look at it.
Sure, it's www.bigbluegumball.com. If you say it slow, it's usually memorable. So, and also, again, we talk about visuals and the impact of visuals, you know, Big Blue Gumball. And sometimes people forget part of the name, but they'll always know at least one or two words in there. So if it's Blue Gumball or Big Gumball or whatever that is,
it'll get you there.
If you Google it, it might lead you there. But again, talking about retention and information and memory, one of the things that's been great about Big Blue Gumball is that people are like, oh, those Big Blue Gumball guys. So, you know, it just shows that people latch on to things and remember things. If we were Cherches Brothers Consulting, I don't know that they'd remember us as well.
So before we leave, we have only a couple of seconds left. I know it goes very quickly. I want to say thank you very much for coming. I'm going to see you on Wednesday night.
This Wednesday,
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And my brother as well.
And your brother, right. So we'll see Todd as well. Any last seconds you want to say? Anything?
No, first of all, thank you so much. It's great to be here, and it's great to talk about this stuff. And you know, again, this is stuff that's useful. This is stuff that's there's a lot of buzz about it, and it's fun for us to be involved in this community and to start talking about it, and for people to respond to it as well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Bye.